All right, so for this problem, we're actually going to be taking a two-digit number into a much larger number. So let's take a look at how 5,808 is divided by 22. Now, one of the things that is a really good idea to do when you're multiplying by a larger number is to estimate your divisor. So we'd say 22 is our divisor. So I'm going to put the number 20 here just to kind of help us get an idea of how many times this number will go into 5,808. So we are still going to be dividing. We are actually going to be multiplying by 22. Now this is where you have to be careful. Even though we're using 20 to estimate, you will always divide by the divisor of 22. We're going to subtract, bring down, we will repeat until we complete. So let's get started. For this, I'm going to actually count by 20s to help me remember or get an idea of how many times 22 will likely go into that large number. Okay, so I'm going to count by 20s. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, 200. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually just multiply by, or do multiply by 2, and then just add zeros. So I could have done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and then added 1 0 to all of them to count by 20s. All right, so let's get started. So this is just going to be my guide. So I'm trying to think of how many times 22 goes into 58. So I'm going to come over here and go, okay, 58 comes in between 40 and 60. So I think it's only going to go twice. So actually, before we do that, does 22 go into 5? No, so right off the bat, we're going to put a 0 because 22 does not go into 5. So we're going to say 22 goes into 58 2 times. All right, so then I'm going to do some math, and I want to keep this math because I might need it again later, so don't erase it. But let's do 22 times 2 and see how many times it goes. Okay, so we've got 22 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so that's going to equal 44, so I'll put that here. Then I'm going to subtract. So 4 minus 8 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. All right, now I know I did it correctly because 22 is larger than 14. So I'm ready to go ahead, and my next step is bring down the next number. That number happens to be a 0. Now I'm definitely going to need my chart for this to see about how many times I think 22 is going to go into 140. So it's all the way down here. Now it looks like it goes perfectly, but remember, this is an estimation. So it might not be as perfect as we think, but it should be close. So we're going to say 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7. I'm going to try 7 first. So let's see if 22 times 7 would work. So 22 times 7. So I know 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 1 is going to be 15. Now that is too large, but I'm not going to erase this. I might need it later. So that's a little too big. So I'm going to go 6 times. So let's try 6 instead. So let's do 22 times 6. All right, so 22 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is now 13. That's going to work. So your number has to be smaller than 140, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and subtract. I can't subtract 2 from a 0, so I'm going to borrow from my 40. That's going to become a 30, and I'm going to bring that over here to make that 10, okay? So 10 minus 2 is going to be 8. 3 minus 3 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0, okay? So I'm going to next bring down my 8. All right, now looking at this, again, I don't know how many times 22 goes into 88, so I'm going to look at my chart and go, okay, it's going to come in between here. 100 is going to be too large, so let's try 80. So times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4. And I just realized I forgot to put my 6 here, so I'm going to go ahead and put my 6 up there. So I want to make sure that when you do find your answer, don't forget to put your quotient up there. So we're going to try 4 times this time. So let's do 22. Let's do that over here. 22 times 4. All right, 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8. And that is going to go perfectly. So we're going to say 4 times 4 times 22 we know is already 88. So we subtract that, and our final answer is going to be 264. Now, if you want to make sure you're correct, a great way to find out if you're correct is you can actually multiply these two numbers, 22 and 264, and you should get 5,808. But that's if you did it correctly. So if you want to check your work, just take 264 times 22, and you should get that answer. So let's check it and just see. So we've got 2 times 4 is going to be 8. 2 times 6 is going to be 12, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is going to be 4, plus 1 is going to be 5. All right, now I'm going to multiply by 20, so I'm going to bring down my 0 here. Okay, so I've got 20. So 2 times 4 is going to be 8. 2 times 6 is going to be 12, carry the 1 again. 2 times 2 is going to be 4, plus 1 is going to be 5. So notice because we multiplied by the same digit, both rows have the exact same numbers, but because we have a 0 there, because we multiplied by 20, that offsets it just a little bit. All right, so 8 plus 0 is 8, 2 plus 8 is 10, carry the 1, 1 plus 5 plus 2 is going to be 8, and then we have 5,880. So this is not our answer, but if you want to check your answer and make sure you are correct, remember you can always take your answer times your divisor, and you should get this number.